Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Mishank, coming to you live from Mayfield, and we're going to go over that homework number 2, and it says, what is the value of 3z plus 2 times the quantity z minus 1 when z equals 5? And so always want to make sure you can substitute those values in for your variables first, and so I'm going to do 3 times 5 plus, and you can use parentheses. Again, you want to use those parentheses instead of those brackets. That way it's nice and simple for yourself. So I have 2 times the quantity, and it has 5 minus 1. And so you can see that's already highlighted there. That's what I'm going to do first. And so again, innermost on grouping symbols, do 5 minus 1, which is 4. And so I do, everything else stays the same. Now I can do 3 times 5, which is 15. Then I can do 2 times 4, which is 8. And then I have 15 plus 8 is 23. Again, when you are plugging this into that Desmos calculator for yourself, be sure to, like I said before, and I'm showing right now very poorly, but make sure that you're using those parentheses instead of those brackets. That way it's nice and clean for yourself. And so we can check our answer in that calculator. And so again, I type in and I say like this. I say 3z plus 2 times the quantity using those parentheses, and I have z minus 1. And then I hit enter, because usually you have a little triangle there. That's just saying, hey, you need to be able to define those variables. And so it says z equals 5. Once you do that, it simplifies it for you, and you get 23. Same idea with that next one. It says, what is the value of, and that has your expression. Be able to substitute those values in for those variables, which is what I do first. Once I substitute my values in for my variables, I want to do the innermost on the grouping symbols, and so I do -1 plus 3. That's going to be equal to 2. And so then I have 2 to the 5th power next. That does not equal 10 for the millionth time. Again, it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is, you guessed it, 32. Once I get that, again, everything else stays the same. I want to make sure I do one operation at a time. So now I do exponents, and so I can do 3 squared. That's going to be 9. Actually, I skipped a little step there. So let's actually write this in. I have 9. I'm going to have 4 times 32, and that's what I would do next. So my apologies. Then I'll have, let's see, 3 times 9 would be this line. Now I would have what I need. So again, since this is the furthest left, that's why we wanted to make sure we can do that multiplication first. And so we do 4 times 32, that's going to be 128. And I do 3 times 9, which is 27. Subtract those two, you get 101. Double check using your Desmos calculator for yourself. Again, please make sure that you are practicing this. Again, it makes it significantly simpler. That way you don't have to spend any time messing up or anything like that. You can clearly see right there, it says, hey, I have 4 times, and it has, actually I believe this is the, yeah, this is the right one. Sorry, I was looking above here. Okay, you have 4 times the quantity, -1 plus a to the 5th power, and I have minus 3a squared. Again, hit enter to start a new line, and define your variable as a equals 3. Once you do that, again, you can have that simplified expression in there. Next two, all right, so it says, gives you the quantity. Again, hopefully by now you're kind of getting more familiar with that Desmos calculator. You can be able to type that in right away and say, okay, hey, this is what I need to get to. So as you're working along, you'd say, all right, well, this isn't looking right, so I can kind of back up. So the calculator kind of helps you out as you're moving along as well. I substitute in my values for my variables, And so I'm going to do division first. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Then I do multiplication. 5 times 2 is 10. And 16 is what you end up with. Again, in that Desmos calculator, even though it might look a little bit different with the fraction bar here, that's okay, as you know that means division. Again, as long as you're saying to yourself, you know, you're reading left to right, so so is the calculator. So again, it has 6 plus, and then it has x divided by 3, and then it has separately times not 9, y. So make sure you know you're spacing out. Use those error keys that are in there for you. And then that last one, it says this. It says, what is the value of 4m plus n minus p to the third power? Plug in your values for your variables using those parentheses. And then you want to do exponents first. So I do 4 to the third power. That's going to be 64. Then I have multiplication. So I do 4 times a negative 2. That's going to be negative 8. Then I can do addition and subtraction, always to the left first. And so then I have negative 3 minus 64. And that's going to be 67. Now there's a lot going on with that. You got several variables. That's okay. That calculator essentially does it for you, and it is extremely simple. Again, you want to make sure you can show those steps for yourself, so that way as you're climbing up that mountain you can say, okay, hey, I know how I got there. But you also want to make sure you can get to the top of that mountain using that calculator. Be sure to ask questions if you're trying to use this. Again, I'm more than willing to help out. Be sure to super slam that subscribe button.